Hello everybody, this is Brian O'Haron, Planning for Success. This is on a Tuesday night. Tuesday nights we're on from 5:30 to 6:30 every Tuesday. I try to get a new show up every once in a while. If there's some action, if there isn't, I don't. But tonight, I've got an extreme environmentalist to help me. He's my guest. I don't have a picture because I couldn't find one that I could use. So I'm doing it without a picture, but his name is Robert Frost. I'm also going to be helped out by the founders of the town as usual, because tonight is going to be on this program a trip down memory lane. And the reason we're going down memory lane is because we have a mayor and others on the majority on the finance board and the selectmen who keep saying, don't tell us what the problems are, tell us what the solutions are. Give us some solutions. Now, unfortunately, in order to give solutions, you got to state what problems are, and you got to get in and delve in. I delved into the town for 2 or 3 years before I wrote my first green paper, trying to find out what was happening here, what was the truth and what was the fiction, and what did I consider to be a plan for success for this town. I wrote it up. I wrote it up in my green paper, which I'll talk a bit about tonight, of 2006, and more green papers afterwards, and then a bunch of red papers, and we haven't, although we have the program Planning for Success for almost 6 years, we haven't had much success because nobody ever does what we say on the program. So it's not just good enough to say, let's just all be positive. It doesn't be, you know, that isn't going to help us. You got to first find out what the problems are. You got to state what they are, let everybody know what they are, and get everybody working together to solve the problem. So tonight is going to be a bit of a trip down memory lane for me. I'm going to go through some of these papers with you that I have presented over the last 6 or 7 years after studying for 2 or 3 years by going to innumerable town meetings, commissions, selectmen, finance board, board of education, water and sewer meetings, you know, ad nauseum on my own time and my own dime. So tonight we're going to help out by starting out, because we have roads, 2 roads diverging in the yellow wood. We have that here. We have the extreme environmentalists, and we have the people that want to get more business and more profitable additional recurring tax revenue into town to help pay for their wants and needs in all the various departments in town, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to repeat this now for you behind the picture of the founders, because I don't have a picture here of Robert Frost, but the road not taken. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though, as for that passing there, had warned them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I marked the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way. I doubt if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The end. Now we'll go to our first slide, and we'll begin this program tonight. And it's going to be a trip down memory lane, because I'd like to refresh everybody's memory on these things. Now, when I first came back here to retire, I had the place since 1974 with my wife Joyce. I met her at the lake at a former friend's cottage, and you know, I've been with her now 52 years, happily married, and we've traveled everywhere and done everything together, and she helps me and I help her. And together we have been fairly successful. When I came to town, a lot of my relatives, because I got a long history in the town, which I'm going to put back up on the on the entrance, perhaps next time I do one of these programs. But my great-grandfather was in the Civil War. He joined William R. McGrain. He joined underage, and he's buried here in one of the grave sites, cemeteries, with a silver bullet in his leg. He died at the age of 93. He worked in the axe factory. He owned a place up there on Platt Hill. Sold the land to the Canavos that they used to develop their gardens up there when he was still alive. I asked my aunts how he retired, and they told me he sold the land to the Canavos' ancestors, and that's where they put their thing. So my son then said to me, when I told him what was going on in the town after I studied it for about 3 years by going to all the meetings, reading the paper, watching the TV programs, blah, 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 he said, because I am an analyst, that's one of my, some of my experience, and I am a businessman, and I have helped people turn around companies and grow companies and close down companies and all kinds of things, and I've got a lot of experience. So my son Patrick said, Dad, you can really help those people in Winsted. A lot of my relatives and friends here said, Brian, can you give us a hand here? You got free time. We'd appreciate it if you could give us free time. I was also spurred along by the difficulty I had in getting permits at the lake and getting things done downtown and all that kind of thing. So I kind of concentrated on both these programs. They've been going on for years now. This is about the 6th or 7th year I've been doing it. Planning for success and getting things done. Tonight is planning for success. Getting things done on Saturdays from 5:30 to, no, from 6, oh, I don't even remember the times. I should have got it, but it's on Saturdays. I think it's 5:30 to 6:30, but I'm not positive. It could be 6 to 7, but 5 to 6 rather. Anyway, I'll have to check on that for next time for you. But anyway, they offered to write it down for me today, and I said, oh, I'll remember it. But when you're my age, it's a little tougher to do that. So what I want to say is that after I studied the town a bit and everybody encouraged me to get involved, I didn't realize what I was getting into, of course. And I have kept copious notes so I could write a book pretty easy, maybe 3 of them by the time I'm done. I did read the history books, thanks to Tony Canavo, who had them reprinted. And after a while, I began to see what was going on here. There were a lot of people at the lake asking me to pitch in money for various things that I thought that would be a waste of my money, so I never did that. I got out of the Watershed Association because I didn't like the way they were approaching the problems at the lake or in the town. So I got out of that, and I'm not a member to this day, and won't be the rest of my life. I'm pretty sure of that. So at the time, in June 19, 2006, Mary Ann Welcome was the mayor and select person. That's 2006. She was a select person. Capobianco was a selectman, and Jay Case. They were the two that were in favor of the development. They worked closely with the people we had in charge at the town hall trying to grow the company, the past town managers and the people that were in the planning department and things like that. So they were very positive, as were most people in the town, with the exception of a few people that were on the finance board and selectmen at the time. Next was Barbara Wilkes, not really in favor of doing the development at the lake and a lot of other things around town that we probably need to do, from what I gather from her public statements and comments. Russell Dutton Buckner, who has a lot of business experience, he was in the majority. The Democrats were and the Independents were in the majority at that time. I can't tell you exactly which was which here because they worked together, the Democrats and the Independent Party people that had left the Independent Party somewhere along the line. It's very complex. But Arthur Melcher was a selectman, and Althea Perez was a selectman. So 5 of them were in the majority, the Democrats and the Independents. And I went to them with my first green paper. And I'm just going to summarize the green paper here tonight because it's too long to read, and you can get a copy of it down at the town hall or call me and I'll get you a copy of it. But basically, to summarize it, I looked at it and I said, the basic thing you need here is more recurring, additional profitable tax revenue to help out the town. You got to go out, you got to get development, you got to get more factories in town, you got to get more businesses in town that pay profitable taxes, and you got to get bigger houses, that kind of thing. And then as you get the money in, then you put it into sinking funds. Like a sinking fund Every year you put in some of that extra money into a sinking fund for fixing the roads. You put a little of that money into a sinking fund for the schools. You put a little money that for their schools' capital stuff. And then you have a separate a bank account for the schools' funds that are not capital funds. Sinking funds are mainly for capital funds. Then you set up another one for whatever else you want to set it up for helping the library, for helping the senior citizens, for helping this. So you either set up capital funds for those things, or you set up expense savings accounts for those things. For example, the Soldiers Monument and all these fire department, new fire trucks, new police cars, the police, everything. And I outlined that all in a green paper in 2006, that not only did I send to the finance board, not knowing how inept they were at the time, and I went to every commission and group in town, and I preached the gospel. When I went to see the Democrats, Marianne Welcome showed up halfway through the meeting and was not very comfortable with what I was saying, in my opinion. And Althea Perez didn't even show up. I don't think Art Melcher was there, Dutton Buckner wasn't there, and I didn't see Barbara Wilkes there either. So none of them were there at the time I went to the Democratic Town Committee. Maybe some of them were even on the Democratic Town Committee, I don't know. But anyway, here's who I sent it to. I sent it to Town Manager, Economic Development Commissioners, and went to their meetings. Water and Sewer Commissioner went to their meeting. Leary, Chairman and member of the Republican Town Committee. James Pettit, Chairman and member of the Democratic Town Committee. Dave LaPointe, Chairman and member of the Winston Independent Party. Richard Pozo, President and member of the Winchester Taxpayer Association, the Winchester Board of Education. I went there several times, and I try to appeal to the people that support the Board of Education, the Inland Wetlands Commissioners, the Planning and Zoning Commissioners, and the Hotter Lake Watershed Association. I talk to everybody, and I try to get them interested. A lot of them speak with forked tongue. They tell you they're interested, but they're not. But in general, most people, except for the liberal Democrats at the time, in my opinion, were in favor of things like that. Now, to just get off of this green paper, which you can read for yourself if you want to, that's going back a long time to 2006, after having done 2 or 3 years worth of study and participation and all that kind of thing. And it's still true today. There's nothing in this paper that we shouldn't be doing today. Now, where the sin comes in is not in the people not doing the things recommended, like getting the development and things like that, but the fact that they didn't have an alternative for that. So that's the real crime, is that nobody's done anything since 2006. We haven't grown the revenue. We haven't really decreased the expenses, bottom line, that kind of thing. So that's going back memory lane to 2006 and 3 years before, when I started gathering the information for this and sharing it with every group in town that I could find that might be interested. Okay, and then next from there, we move on to my next paper, which I gave to them. It was the same part parcel in a way of the same paper, but it was a separate letter. It was June 18, 2012. And in there, I included my first 5 pages of my 2006 green paper, because nothing had been done except take us backwards. Nothing was done positively along the way. And this is now June 18th of 2012 on memory lane. And I called it a red paper this time. And I'm going to tell you why I called it a red paper, because we hadn't done anything that was in the green paper, and we didn't look like we were going in the wrong direction, and we weren't getting anywhere, that was a real problem for me. So I started a series of red papers, and most of the rest of the papers that I'll mention tonight will be the red papers. So number 1 red paper was 6/18/2012, and it was basically asking the town to restructure, reduce the expenses, and reinvest in our town in a manner that would help grow the additional recurring profitable tax base. And we concentrate a lot on the what was going on with the reval, because at the time, the early indications were that the initial results of the ongoing town property revaluations in October would show roughly an average 45% or so decrease in appraised downtown non-Lake and Winchester property, 6% or so decline in Highland Lake, and a 26% or so decrease in Winchester property values. Now, that turned out not to be exactly accurate, but the bottom line turned out to be the same. The bottom line turned out to be this huge mill rate increase we're going to get, because instead of the property values going up, they took the state statute, the appraisers and the town, and they excluded a lot of the properties that were foreclosed on or that had one of a myriad of reasons for not including them in the calculations. Now, James Roberts and John Gauger explain that on their program, Crossing the Divide. On their program, Efficient, Effective, Affordable, and Accountable to You. That's James Roberts and John Gauger. John Gauger, very well known in town, very numerate, used to work for IBM. James Roberts, very numerate, Wall Street, a lot of numbers, all retired early. And they have a program on Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7 on Channel 13, and they have one on Saturday from 3 to 3:30. Now, their program this week will probably be up on the internet next Monday or so, and if not, you can get to it by calling James and seeing it on YouTube. He's got a link to it for the YouTube. And they talk a lot about what happened during the reval and what they think and what their conjecture is to why this happened. But the end result is the same. The end result, we didn't expect the property values at the lake to go down as much as they did, and we thought the property values downtown would go down more. But in the end, we still got the same problem. And all new problems came up during the year, and they've added to these problems. I'll talk a bit more about that, I hope, later. But we're in real soup here now, and there's trouble brewing. Matter of fact, it's boiling now. It's not brewing anymore, it's boiling. And we're in real trouble as a town, and I tried to wake them up with this red paper, 6/18/2012, and I did tell them that it's going to be very difficult now to get budgets increased, and people will be forced to unite and scrutinize the budget proposals very closely, as they're going to do this year, before voting yes for a budget that doesn't have a substantial decrease. There is a long list of reasons why it has been difficult to consistently pass increases in Winsted. One of the main reasons, I believe, has been our inability to consistently grow the profitable portions of the recurring tax base and gain the confidence in the taxpayers that their management is financially able and sound. That still isn't true to this day. Distrust in the Finance Board's financial management capability abounds. Now, I won't read the rest of the letter. Again, you can get another copy. You can get a copy of it. But I did suggest that they start managing a little better and that they go into, 5-year objectives, management by objectives, management by exception together, using quarterly reviews, positive lateral thinking, system thinking, parallel thinking, all of these kind of things. All kind of Harvard Business School stuff. Nothing new about it at all. Successful people do it all the time. So with that, and I suggested they have the town manager, under the direction of the Finance Board, construct and manage the execution of the plan, if the charter allows, and otherwise urgently change the town charter to allow things to get done the right way. And the town manager might even need some small reallocations of the budget. Be sensible about the next submission of the 2012-13 budget, as any increase may be difficult to pass with the revaluation sword, as at times, sword of Damocles hanging over the taxpayer town's head. In trying times, all decisions are difficult, and take courage. Now, the next paper I gave them was red paper number 3. Red paper number 3 was given to them in July 16th, 2012, give or take a few days. At least I wrote it in July 16th. I think that's when I gave it to them. But this was a mock obituary I did of the town, because I saw people going bankrupt around the country, and I read all the articles, and what I did is I sort of jury-picked these articles, and I wrote red paper number 3, a mock obituary for the town of Winsted. And I basically said that Winsted, the beloved partner of Winchester, Connecticut, and hometown of activist Ralph Nader and well-known author David Halberstam, was born in 1771, Winsted, and succumbed from a myriad of financial illnesses today at the age of 170 years of age. The mayor was appalled by this mock obituary, but it was meant to send a message to the town that we were getting into deep trouble and further into deep trouble, and that we ought to address it, wake up, and work together as a team, all the different groups, commissions, and boards, and get going on this. So I talk a bit about the past, and then how the town got crippled when the railroad left in the flood in '55, and then the charter revision in the 1960s, and all that kind of thing. And then prior to its death, it was plagued by an extremely low fund balance, which we have today, 0. Reduced Moody's credit ratings decrease, which we have today. Inflated property values, which we had until they just partially reduced. They may do more in the next 5 years. And an inability to raise taxes over the years. Effects of the latest recession and an inability to implement a few of the myriad of problems produced at substantial cost over the years. The town was forced to declare bankruptcy. Now, I really don't think they're going to end up declaring bankruptcy, but we could have some very, very tough times ahead of us that all the programs are talking about, with the exception of the 5 liberal Democrats in charge. They spread all the town employees to minimum wage, reduce retirement and health benefits, stop payment on many town financial obligations. We're doing that now, severely hurting businesses. It was too much for Winston, and residents and businesses when residences and businesses began to leave in droves as services decreased and the grand list plummeted as property prices decreased and industry left town for greener pastures. The final blow was the 21% average mill rate increase in the town's percent, in the 0% town 2013-14 budget. Now, it turned out to be close to that. It was about 18%, but the mill rate is going up by about 24%, so we were kind of in the ballpark there. It happened for different reasons, which John and James explain on their programs, and maybe I'll even do more of it. Maybe I'll show a clip of their program next time around so you can see that. So now we'll go to the next red paper, number 4. Number 4, that happened, I don't even have a date on it, but I think it was in the same time frame, in the August time frame, and that was a red paper saying that, hey, the taxpayers have rejected your budget submission for the second time in a resounding manner. That was last year. My bet is that they will continue to do so, with a possible reval percent increase coming next fiscal year for all Winston taxpayers. To avoid zero or negative budgets for many years to come, you need to urgently ask the town manager to produce a 5-year set of objectives, still don't have it, that I gave as an example in my red paper, Managing by Objectives and Exception, on June 18th, 2012. This can be done in a matter of days, not weeks. And 6 weeks has already passed. This should be then presented to the finance board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Please have the town manager ask the finance director for the bottom line financial results for the last 3 to 5 years of additional profitable recurring revenue, cost, and fund balance, and extrapolate them forward, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we did say, hey, let's get off your duff here. Let's work together with the town manager, and let's put together there's rough times a-coming. Now, of course, the times ended up being worse than we thought they would be, and that doesn't help us, but that's usually the case. It's usually, well, we did an operation on you, Brian, but while digging in there, we found something else. And, you know, maybe there's even more than that. And see you again next week type thing. So we who try to get things done and to plan for success, we always think very conservatively with our numbers. We don't put any numbers in that we're pretty sure we're going to make, and that we have a fallback plan for should that not happen. That's what quarterly reviews are for. You review every quarter exactly where you stand against the yearly plan and the 5-year plan or the 3-year plan, and you make management decisions. The next red paper is red paper number 5. I didn't have a slide for 4 because I couldn't find it, but I finally found it. I've been looking for it for months. I finally found it today on my computer. But red paper number 5 was August 6th, 2012, and it said, I don't see how you can plan a budget for next year, for fiscal 13-14, without having a good idea what the revenue and spending are for the following fiscal years. How can you manage forward without realistic forward fiscal year objectives? How can you budget now for events necessary this year to accommodate future fiscal year dollars, decreases or increases? You may have to do things this year to survive next year's budget battles, possibly reval increases. And then I say, you can't. You must have those things. So what about the education budget? We went through all that. And there's a little more. You can read the paper if you want at the town hall. But these are all trying to give them ideas that they keep asking for. Well, what's your answer? What's your solution? What do you want us to do? Well, it's all, everything I ever gave them is all in writing, all in paper. I don't think I ever went to the meeting and didn't have it written down. So the red paper number 5 was, again, trying to wake them up, trying to shake them, trying to give them. Now, a lot of fiscal conservative Democrats, including former mayors and finance directors and planning people and everything else, they kind of agree with all this. But right now, the fiscal conservative Democrats, they're in quarantine. The liberal Democrats don't want them on the town committee. They don't want to deal with them on any of these issues because they think more like other fiscal conservatives, like myself, unaffiliated. I can talk to all these fiscal conservatives across party lines, no problem. We all speak the same language. But I can't talk too well with the extreme liberals because they'll tell you rocks fall up. And rocks don't fall up, as all the engineers told me when I was in the computer business. Brian, rocks fall down. They don't fall up. We've had everybody in the world try to pull their wool over our eyes. There was a Candy Perez in Russia. There was a Candy Perez alike in Australia. There was a Candy Perez in New Zealand. There was a Candy Perez in South America. There was a Candy Perez in Canada. Now, it wasn't this Candy Perez, but it was somebody who thought like her and did the same kind of thing. And there was a Marianne Welcome, and there was a James DeVita, and there was Renzulo, and, you know, all these people. So we're used to dealing with that. And after they say 2 words, we know exactly what their whole philosophy is. But it's very difficult to talk to them. It's like talking to the wall. And I even joined some commissions and finally said, I'm not going to get anything done here. I'm better off doing it outside with my own money, whatever I want to do, and having my TV programs and talking to anybody I want to talk to. I once went to one of the meetings and the people said, why did you go see the town manager? And I said, well, because I had something to say to him. I said, well, you know, you should go over it with this commission first before you go see the town manager. So I said, thank you very much. I tipped my hat and I left the commission. So that's kind of the way it goes. Now, that's that one. Now, the next one I gave him was red paper number 6. And that was asking them during the last budget process to wait for the vision appraisal revaluation to be done instead of trying to push the budget through, the zero budget through that they went for referendums with last time. And I said to them, hey, you'd be better off saying no to this 4th time, and you'd be better off getting all the facts on the table from the revaluation. It was only a month or so away, or a month or two. Now, I think certain people already had some information about what it was going to turn out to be, and there's a lot of politics involved in all this kind of stuff, and politics don't count here. They just muddle up the whole thing and slow everything down, and they speed up the route to insolvency. That's what they do in our particular town. In other towns, they might do something a little bit different. But so I wrote them a letter saying, hey, you should postpone that. And I put a sign up in front of my yard, which I'll show you pretty quickly. And I said, basically, your budget's been rejected. Let's wait till we get all the reval information so we're not speculating anymore, and then let's pass the budget. Meanwhile, we'll keep it as the charter says, we'll keep it at 0, like it was. We'll keep it at the same amount it was the year before until we get all the information we need to actually make some intelligent decisions. Well, the people in town didn't do that, and the budget got voted in. And now, a year later, while we're doing the new budget, fiscal 13-14 budget, we're in the same worse pickle than we were before. We entered the year with about a $1.4 million deficit, and that's tricky math there, because for a lot of reasons I won't go into on this program. But now we're up now to 2.8, somewhere between 2.8 and maybe 4 million. We don't know yet about that, but the official number now is 2.8 million. By the end of June, we'll be in the deficit, and there's no way without cutting expenses, especially in the school area where all the money is and all the duplication is, and between the school and the town where there's duplication and money with services and things, we've got to manage that, and we've got to do it now. We can't wait. till next year. Otherwise, we lose another year because one of them will go off and play basketball, the other will go off and to a cottage up north, the other one will go and do whatever she does, and the other one will work with his defunct company, and the other one will continue to lead the salute to the flag and the reading of the obituaries at the selectmen meeting. So we don't really want that. We need to stop now, find out what's wrong within the capability we have. If in doubt, assume it's going to be worse than it is, and plan for it. Make some decisions. Get all together and go down there to the state. It's got to come from within. Our people got to work together, all the commissions, committees, everything, and they got to go down to the state and square away that problem, and then they got to work together to square away whatever problems we can do without getting the state involved. That has to happen. So this is still true today. This was written in September of 2012. No different. We're in worse shape now. And we're going to be even in worse shape if we pass this budget that they're trying to shove down our throat right now. And they're giving you all kinds of reasons why you should vote for it. I and other fiscal conservatives, and a lot of them won't even speak up because they don't want to be vilified by the vilifiers in the town. They think we're going to be in a real jam here next year, a real jam. And I mean, when you get to the point where the school is writing emails to the town manager saying, hey, we got a lot of bills that aren't being paid here, of $1.5 million, $1.6 million, maybe more to come, and the town manager saying, no, I don't agree with any of that. Well, my own view is that the two finance directors should be working hand in hand. They should all have the same set of numbers, and they should all be giving the same information to everybody, even if it's all behind closed doors. So we got squabbles going in the open and in the newspapers and in the emails and in the Freedom of Information, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I don't think I've been ever involved with something as goofed up as our town is right now financially. So please take my word for that, and try to read these papers. If you want some more, come talk to me. I'll be happy to sit down and talk to you and explain them all to you. Even when people ask for information, you give it to it, they find ways to turn it down. And I just don't think that that's ever going to help. I mean, why do you want to pay consultants to then not listen to them? And I offer my advice free. I don't charge anybody anything. Even if I pay some money to help people get permits or to get appeals, I don't charge them or anything like that. Now, I can afford to because I've taken the road least traveled by, as have a lot of fiscal conservatives, have a lot of business people, has Kenny Fracasso, have other people before him in this town, have all these businessmen that you see on my program, the pictures of them. They all took the road least traveled by, and they did a darn good job until the whole thing fell apart somewhere along the line for some reason I don't know. I kind of blame a lot of it on the switch away in the 60s or so from the mayoral form of government. I don't think that helped us at all. We had a decent finance board. We had different kind of people involved. And now we've got people involved in trying to, what they say, help the town. They're actually ruining and destroying the town. That's not good. Next red paper number 7. February 12th, 2013, I actually go and present these papers. I try to do it in a way that they get on television and everybody can see them. And this is one where I went in to say that I supported the Water and Sewer Commission this year because all the meetings I ever went to them, they've always been very positive, they've been very fair, they've always tried to get more additional profitable recurring tax revenue in town, they always try to work with people to extend the water and sewer lines, they always try to do better, and the actual commission itself relied on the town for financial information, still does to a great extent. They don't have their own financial man in there. They have very good people who know how to run a water facility, and they were given information by the town that wasn't accurate. I'm not saying anybody's totally innocent in this. We're all human beings and we all make mistakes. But that was a good group, so I went to their defense with a red paper, and I said, look, you don't want to throw the people out. You want to get in and work with them, and you want to try to make this all a very positive experience for the town and for them and yourself, and just changing the deck chairs on a Titanic is not the answer to our problems. Working together, everybody helping each other. I went to the public hearing, tried to give them a little positive advice about how to do things a little better in the future. Other people went there trying to blame them for everything. Believe me, the Water and Sewer Commission is not to blame for all our problems here. the Finance Board and the Board of Selectmen over the last 10 years, maybe even longer, they're the ones that should have been on top of this. They've been getting audit reports. If they didn't have people who could get the audit reports done, they should have fired the auditors. There's all kinds of tough actions that could have been and should have been taken that weren't. So I wrote a red paper, and I went and I stood up, and I went to their meetings, and I went to their public hearing and tried my best to help them, not fire them. The next is red paper number 8. That was given to them on March 20th of 2013, just 1 month later. And this was in response to the budget workshop they had, where Selectman Perez, who I don't see eye to eye with at all and probably never will, for input concerning the dire financial straits that the management of the town of Winchester are now experiencing. So I wrote a paper, and I said, okay, here's what you got to do. You know, if you want my view of what you got to do, you can get it from anybody else you want. You can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the same kind of advice. But as you are well aware, prospects for an increase of any significant amount of increased profitable additional recurring revenue for budgets in the foreseeable future are minimal at best. We are now told that the projected deficit for the current fiscal year is predicted to be at least $1,800,000. Now it's up to $2.8 million. It's going to be up to almost probably 3.2 to 4.5 million or more, 4 million. Well, we don't know yet. We'll find out sometime when the audits are done and when the police investigation is done. And nobody can tell you when that's going to happen because they keep turning up new. Every time they turn over a card, they find some other problem. So that's being stretched out, and certain people might. I'm not saying they do, but they might like to have it stretched out till the budget's passed and then load it all on you with a supplemental tax, or they might want to pass it out till the election's over in November and then load it onto you with a supplemental tax, assuming they win. There's all kinds of politics involved in here. This is 90% politics, 10% responsible business management. I believe that the town manager needs immediate air cover from the Board of Finance. The town can't continue to bear the brunt of the budget cuts as we sink. That's the policemen in the town garage. And I'm not saying they can't improve a little, of course, but they can't. You saw all that during the year when they were making their presentations on the budget. You know, $12 million for this, $3 million for that. A new school, you know, 30 to 50 million, even though the state's going to pay a lot and they can't even give us what they've been giving us in the past. There are rumors that might go down by 250 to 500,000 for next year's budget, but we're planning on getting more money next year, not losing money. So it makes the budget very, very questionable. So many taxpayers have years ago lost confidence in the Board of Education's inability to manage budgets because of their fiscal difficulties, and feeling still persists today. Many taxpayers have also been suspicious about the town's management ability to manage their budget, even more so today than it was when I wrote the paper in March. Every day it's something new, and it's always bad. It's seldom good, although there was a little good news this week, but not much. Nobody believes the good news when it comes out until they see it, taste it, bite into it, and live with it for a while. The zero budget increases over the years have been the taxpayers' message to management of the town, a warning, a wake-up call that has not been heeded by the town management. It's time to institute an across-the-board spending freeze, which they may or may not have done. I haven't heard anything about it. And to look for savings wherever you can. And then I got a whole another page here. I'm not sure how much time I've got left. It's 4:41. I started at time, I don't know, about 4. So I got another 20 minutes or so, maybe a little less. So I will read the next page. Number 2, get with the Board of Education and the state and get them to agree to reduce the 2013-2014 Town of Winchester education budget by whatever amount necessary to resolve the deficit problem now. For example, combine and eliminate duplicate functions between town, Gilbert, and the K through 6, etc. Close a school or two, reduce busing, have one superintendent and support staff, etc., etc., etc. Don't take no for an answer. Go to the state for help by yourself and shake things up if you must. And my view now is take all the union leaders with you. If you think it'll help give you some leverage, town manager, and and town managers rather than Board of Education and Board of Education managers. Go down there, shake it up, and let's get some results like other towns are doing and trying to do. And as I said on one of my programs that I repeated last Saturday, yes, you can. There are ways you can get down there and negotiate. But if if the superintendent of schools writing a letter saying one thing and other people writing a letter saying just the opposite, you're never going to get anything done that way. That isn't going to work. You got to do it. Now I'll tell you, when Joyce and I got married 52 years ago in Lawrence, Kansas, we had to stand next to each other when we got married. And we had to take vows, and we had to, do all that kind of thing and have witnesses and all the things you got to do. She didn't go across the street, and I didn't go up to the basketball court to get married. We got together, and we worked with the support staff in Lawrence, Kansas to get us married. And we've been living happily ever after. So the town's got to do the same thing. You got to work together. You got to get married, so to speak. You got to all work in the same direction, whether you like it or not. And it's very obvious to everybody, of course, that that's not happening right now. Get extremely serious about an additional profitable recurring revenue. See my 2006 green papers to you, the Board of Education and the PTOs, that's the word I was looking for before, advising you. The PTOs never even got back to me. I sent them all letters, explained the green papers. They never even called me. I think the PTO should be in there trying to get this town, help the town get into better shape, because that will help provide better education for the students. They should be very visible, as should the unions, in my opinion. A lot of people don't agree with me, but that's my opinion. I'm entitled to one, because I'm an American citizen, and I have been all my life, more than most of you have been, to be honest with you. Maintain a balanced budget each year by using management by objectives. Plenty of fiscal Democrats around who can help you do that. Wayne Dove would do it, could do it. Other people can do it. Wayne was trying to do it. I was trying to back him and help him. Other people were trying to do the same thing. Didn't work out for one reason or another, but we can't give up. We got to keep going. I'm sure this town manager wants to do the right thing, but he's got to have the air cover. If he doesn't have the air cover, you can't just listen to the Democrats all the time, the liberals. He's got to listen to the fiscal conservative Democrats. He's got to listen to the fiscal conservative unaffiliated, the fiscal conservative things. And I personally think that a lot of things he's doing divide people. He gets in there and writes a letter in the weekly paper, and he makes fun of people. That's not good. He's got to be able to take it on the chin and try to work with everybody and try to keep as much of the press relationships confidential with all 7 selectmen in the Board of Education as possible. Work together. Every time we have an argument, Joyce and I, we don't run to the newspaper. We don't put a sign in front of the house, just had an argument. We don't do that. We try to work out our problems between ourselves. And especially not in front of the children. We try to work it all out. Now, if we have problems with children, we try to work it out with them. If they have trouble between themselves, we try to work it out with them. If we got trouble with neighbors, we try to work it out with them. We don't throw stones at them and, rotten apples. We try to work it out. Now, I tell everybody, when I grew up in Darrington, if you didn't get along with your neighbors, you might lose a finger. It was a pretty tough environment there. So you got along with everybody, because one day my mom would say, go over there, Brian, and borrow 2 eggs from our neighbor until payday. And then somebody else would come to the house, hey, can you lend us a cup of sugar until payday? Hey, another guy would come, or a lady would come and say, can you lend me a couple dollars till payday? Can you give me a lift down to the doctor's office, the dentist's office? My kid's sick in school, we got to go get him and bring him home. We work together all the time. Some issues we didn't agree on, but we still worked together. We lived together. We shared experiences together. And that's what this town needs to do. And then we got to stop publicly underestimating the reval property value impact. We're still doing it to this day. The town manager's saying one thing, everybody else is saying something else. The liberals are saying one thing, the conservatives are saying something else. But we all know the reval's been a big detriment for our town. It's going to be even worse. People are dumping their houses. They're walking away from their houses. This is the worst. It's not like where, as James Roberts says, where you have one or 2 foreclosures a year. Here we got foreclosures all over the place. We're swimming in foreclosures. So we got to stop publicly underestimating the reval property value impact and water and sewer increases on the taxpayer. The taxpayer, now we're finding out that some of the water and sewer increases for businesses and other things could be up to 40, 50%. If you look at, I've got a copy here of their formulas that they put on the board for the public hearing. And although people think they're going to be 20% for water and 35% for sewer, in a lot of cases they're going to be different than that. They're going to be more than that. Some cases it'll be less. But again, we got to get this, people are going to find out when they get their bills. Now, I did hear in the town hall the other day that they are now starting to turn people's water off if they don't pay their bills. So I advise all of you, if you aren't paying your water bills and you need the water, you better get down and pay your bills because you might get turned off. And that's because they need the money. They probably got $80,000 or so or more in unpaid water bills. And they can use that $80,000 right now because they can't pay their vendors in a lot of areas. And it's crazy. And if not possible, you will have to find another way to win back the confidence of the taxpayers if you are to succeed. The taxpayers, and I'm one of them, are the owners of the town. They are demanding and are results-orientated. They show them financial results, gain their confidence, and you will win them over for responsible increases when necessary, I'm sure. Somebody asked me about that today, and I said, well, if we had a balanced economy and we were growing the revenue and everything were right, we could probably live with the average increase every year for inflation, which has been about, over the last 10 years, averaged about a couple percent, maybe a little more, a little less since the Depression. But people would live with that if they saw everything was well balanced and the money was being spent wisely. But if they saw it being spending on lottery tickets or all on booze or on cigarettes or any of that kind of thing, they'd probably say, well, I don't want to give any money for that. That second half of a superintendent stands out like a sore thumb. By the way, I do have a sore thumb. I hit it with a rock yesterday while I was building one of my walls in front of the house. Somebody was asking me about politics. Instead of concentrating on the wall, I hit the rock onto my thumb. So let's get together. Let's work together. Now, I got a couple more slides, which I think we'll put up because I only got a couple minutes. I'll put the next slide up. Let's see what it says, and then I'll comment. Okay, it's the same old thing, deficit. The end of the June will probably be about 2.8 million. I put that in on purpose, that the question mark, because we don't know for sure. There's different numbers bouncing around. We went to a meeting Monday, which was dropped at 400,000 from 3.2 to 2.8. We might go to another meeting in a few more days, with boost it up to 3.2 or even higher than that. There are other people thinking everything hasn't been included in there. There's a lot of dissension about it. Next slide. So I'm saying wait again. Wait this time until all the dust settles before you vote yes on this budget. Just like we said last year, you didn't do it. We're in worse trouble now. We lost a year in getting in our expenses reduced in the school side and everywhere else we need to do it. And we didn't get any roads fixed. We didn't get anything done. We got less revenue by about $1 million, and we got more expenses with police overtime and other things that we didn't expect. So we're kind of in the pickle. So let's wait. Vote no this time. That's my recommendation. You vote whatever way you think is best for you and your family and your neighbors, but I'll be voting no, that's for sure. And you ought to give it very serious consideration. Watch all the programs, attend a lot of the meetings, try to get the real facts here. And with that, I think that's the last slide, so I'm going to say thank you very much. We'll put up the picture again of the businessman that got us almost through the initial years, anyway, up until they changed the form of government, and the railroad left, and all the factories left, and the bup, and the boop, boop, boop. So those are the guys that helped us. Some of them were educators, some of them were factory owners, some of them were government leaders, blah, blah, blah. So with that, thank you very much. I'll see you in a week.